In September last year, I was going to northern Germany, and with some extra time to spare, I went on Google to look for cool places to visit while being up there. Apparently, the region has an extensive scene of cultural offerings, but being primarily interested in buildings, one attraction caught my attention: the world's most tilted tower. Never having visited the Leaning Tower of Pisa, this would finally be my opportunity to get back at those muscle flexing gravity preventers. Or, at the very least, just visit a quirky place few else have been to. So off I went to see this titled tilted tower. In a small village in East Friesland lies a peculiar church. It is 700 years old and was originally a modest structure. In the 15th century, the congregation decided to add a tower, and so it stood peacefully for centuries, all the way until a problem gradually revealed itself. The church is built on marshy lands, and its foundation consisted of oak logs. Normally, that wouldn't necessarily be a problem, but when drainage was carried out in the area, it caused the groundwater level to drop. As a result, the logs that had been covered in water for centuries were now exposed to oxygen and began to deteriorate. The combination of rotten logs and a heavy tower made sure that everything about this church looked slightly off. In fact, you'll struggle to even find a right angle, not only on the outside, but also on the inside. That the church is still standing may appear as a miracle, but what ended up saving it wasn't help from above, but rather from below. In the 70s, the building was no longer deemed safe to use, and the congregation planned to move into a newly built community center. Luckily, one last attempt to save the church was carried out. By drilling deep holes into the ground and filling them with reinforced concrete, the tower was stabilized and eventually stopped leaning. Today, the angle of lean is 5.2 degrees. This means that the tower has a deviation of more than 2 meters. For this accidental feat of engineering, the church was eventually given its well-deserved recognition. In 2007, the Guinness World Records named it the most tilted tower in the world, overtaking the throne from its well-known competitor in Pisa with more than 1 degree. Now, there are other structures with greater lean, but those are purpose-built, and therefore competing for a different title. Happy with what I'd seen, I returned back home and didn't think much more about the place. It wasn't until a couple of months later, when I randomly looked up Solhusen, that shocking news hit me. Just days after my visit to the church, another tower had surpassed it to become the most tilted tower in the world. This one, coincidentally, also in Germany. It made me wonder about the impact this would have on Solhusen. After all, what drove me to the place was in large part the title, and that probably goes for many of its visitors. Therefore, a quest for an answer began, but finding one proved difficult. There are many examples of buildings that have lost titles throughout history, most notably buildings that at some point were the world's tallest. What these structures share is that they're incredibly expensive and labor-intensive to make, and therefore often found in cities. Since cities naturally tend to attract people, and given the advent of mass tourism, these sites have remained popular, despite the loss of titles. When it comes to our leaning church, it was just a normal building that by accident became the furthest outlier, only to now have been overtaken and regained some of that normalcy. It is still quirky, and if it had been located in a big city, it likely would have attracted many more visitors. But being placed in a small village in the northwest corner of Germany, it's not like tourists just spawn there. Most take a detour to see this tower, and for many, that inconvenience may no longer justify a visit.